Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Brad from the Ad Army, and today we are going over another beginning deck and Digimon decks for beginners as we are going over Garurumon, as this is going to be how to play Garurumon. So we are getting into Garurumon today, as this will be the focus of the beginning deck series. And before I get into it, I just wanted to let people know I appreciate everybody who's been joining the Ad Army. We are climbing quickly. I want to hit 500 subs as soon as possible, just because we are on the rise there. But more importantly, I appreciate everybody who's joined, and I do hope that this series has been helping people out if they've been thinking about playing new decks or decks that maybe they're just curious about. And if you are a new player that's been trying to get into Digimon, I just want to tell you thank you for clicking on my videos, because this is mainly the series just to help people out in getting started so they don't feel so lost when they're trying to jump in. But let's start off with the criteria today to kind of tell you what I think dictates a beginning deck. So starting off, the first thing is that it needs to be straightforward and clear. I do believe that when you have a first deck, the main thing it needs to do is be able to do the leg lifting for its players and not do the other. If it makes you have to do most of the work, then we are not having a beginning deck. We're having a deck that definitely requires a little bit more playtime and skill, and I'd rather a beginning deck be very clear so that you don't have to struggle. Additionally, ease of use is always going to be my second criteria for a beginning deck. It has to be easy to use. It doesn't need to have long, complicated combos, because that doesn't really help you understand the fundamentals of the game. But ultimately, it has to be, like I said, user-friendly. I want to be able to see that maybe someone decides they want to play the game or just give it a shot at locals, and for whatever reason, someone has a deck like this or they have cards like this, and they could just pick this up, learn some of the rudimentary rules, and then just get straight to it. That is the key of ease of use for these decks. And finally, the last thing is that it has to be budget minded. This is a definition of a word I keep on revamping on my channel lots of times, because budget minded can be as big as you want or as little as you want. I've always had that attitude thanks to me playing Yu-Gi-Oh in the past. But the main thing is, for Digimon, I do have budget minded here because I don't think a first deck should be so expensive. I don't think it should run you so much money so you have to struggle. And I do think that when it comes down to it, you can put as little into a deck as possible so it can get started. But more importantly, if it has the ability to have higher tiers, you are able to put more money into it to understand maybe how you need to put money into certain games and hobbies in order to understand how you have to compete at the higher levels. So that's usually why these decks have the availability to jump very high or be very budget minded if you just want to play it. But now we're going to be getting into today's topic, which is Garurumon, as Garurumon is a very important deck because it is one of the fan favorites thanks to Adventure, and more importantly, it may be one of the reasons you clicked on this video, because Garurumon, like I said before, is a part of the series in many ways, and is only the red-headed stepchild to Agumon, which is obviously the protagonist, but you do need both for Omnimon, which is maybe another reason you came here. But we're going to get into the game plan of what this deck does, and we're going to jump into it right now. So starting off, what does Garurumon do? The first thing is that its game plan here is to be aggressive. Now, yes, I bet a lot of people are probably like, but you said this on the last couple beginning deck videos. I did. But with Garurumon, this is the kind of the easiest strategy to go with, because there aren't too many decks that focus on trashing security, but being aggressive is always the best way to start, because it teaches the beginning players just to keep on hitting hard, because effectively when you're playing Digimon, you still have to commit attacks. You always have to finish the game with a swing, so that's why being aggressive is always the best starting point. But the game plan for MetalGarurumon and Garurumon is that you need to be aggressive. The main focus of this deck is it allows you to draw and search for your pieces. Unlike the other two decks I featured before, the main focus of this deck is to assemble a very good stack so that you can deliver a lot of blows to your opponent at once so that you can try to finish the game as quickly as possible. This deck likes to filter and find pieces extremely quickly. You want to build your stacks, and you attack over and over to chip your opponent's security away. That is the main way to win, obviously, in Digimon, but for this deck, it really does this well, and you'll see in a minute why. Additionally, you want to establish Garurumon X, because this is your main way to protect your sources and protect your Digimon by trashing sources or returning stuff to the bottom of the deck. And you use various effects to bounce, delete, and overpower your opponent's field. This is one of the main benefits of this deck, is that in order to achieve its game plan, each of its pieces and steps to get to the top allow you to either remove threats, continuously do damage to the opponent, and even bounce cards away so that your opponent is forced to kind of deal with your stack or deal with your field while you continuously build your strategy. Now we're going to jump into it today, right now, as we have the 2 eggs that we'll focus on for today's video, being the BT15 Tsunomon and the ST16 Tsunomon. So the blue and purple base are the focuses of this strategy. I did want to showcase both because I think it would be unfair to just focus on one type of egg, considering this deck does mix with both colors, and you will be mixing some of the colors in your deck in order to make the deck run a bit smoother. But the BT15 Tsunomon is here because it allows you to understand kind of one of the additional benefits of the strategy, where when you add cards to your hand, or an effect adds cards to your hand, this Digimon gets 1000 DP until the end of your opponent's turn. This combines with another card, but the point is that's what the blue focuses more on in terms of the Garurumon Gabumon now. They want you to trigger different effects when you add cards to your hand, so this will be seen a little bit later. Additionally, Tsunomon from ST16 or ST6 16 is important because this one allows you to, when attacking, if you have 6 or fewer cards in your hand, you draw 1 card. This card is important because in the purple version, you filter a lot. So in order to gain the ability to just get extra cards to your hand when you pitch them away, or you start to decline in hand size, this card can allow you to get a draw, and it's very important. So we'll move into it when we talk about the different level 3s here, because we're starting off with the blue Digimon first. So we're starting off with the 3 different Gabumons. These can be any Gabumon, really, because there are a lot of cards that happen to be Gabumon that are blue, or happen to be Gabumon that are purple. But the point is, these are ones that I think are very useful for a beginning player. Starting off, when you start with the blue base, the advantage you have is that you're basically playing the best versions of the Gabumons. You are heavily designed on being able to search cards and keep the consistency going. Stuff like the ST9 Gabumon here is here because it gives you 1000 DP during all turns while you have 8 or more cards. This is very important because you will be using blocker in this version of the deck if you so choose another card later, but the point is you're now able to use this effect very well. It gives your stacks an extra DP, and it can mean the difference between being run over. The EX1 Gabumon is important because it reveals the top 3 cards of your deck when attacking, and you get to add 1 Tamer card or 1 Digimon card with Gabumon among them to the hand. This is important because it can search a lot of cards, but it's great just to search for more pieces and get your Tamer access. Garurumon X is played in both versions, blue and purple, because on play, when Digivolving, you reveal the top 3 cards. You get to add 1 card with Garurumon in its name and 1 X Antibody among them, or Omnimon as well, and you place the rest to the bottom. This card is very important because of its special evolution condition to Digivolve on top of any Gabumon, allowing it to be played in the purple variant. Talking about the other 2 Gabumons you can play, the reason I want to talk about these last is that these can Digivolve on top of any Tsunomon, so it is important, so the color doesn't necessarily matter, in the form of the BT15 Gabumon. This one is somewhat more expensive, so I do have caveats in the end. Point is, with this one, at the start of your main phase, one of your Digimon can gain blocker, and then until the end of your opponent's turn, this lasts. But then, if you have a Tamer with Matashita in play, you gain the ability to draw 1 card. It has the 1 attacking effect once per turn to draw 1 card from your hand, which is always very solid. Additionally, we have the BT17 Gabumon. This one is designed for the Omnimon deck, but it's still useful in Garurumon, where at the start of your main phase, if you have a Tamer with Mat in its name, you get to gain the ability to draw 1 card. Additionally, it can let you DNA at the end of the turn, but that doesn't matter as much. Point is, with this one, you're able to Digivolve on top of any Tsunomon, so it is always very good. Now we're looking at the purple level 3s. Starting off, we have the 3 Gabumons that I think are the most useful. Funny enough, 2 of them come from structure decks. One is the BT2 Gabumon. This one on deletion lets you trigger a draw 2 trash 1. This one's just really good for filtering, but this one probably is played the least in the actual purple Gabumon variants because you don't really benefit anything from losing your stack. Additionally, the ST6 Gabumon is here because it has the very good when attacking you trigger draw 1 trash 1. This one's fantastic. It was limited for a reason at the time, but this card is at 4, so you will be playing a lot of copies. The next one we have is the ST16 Gabumon, which is very important because it carries the ability to Digivolve on top of any of the Tsunomon, so you can play this in a blue variant if you so choose. But during the start of the main phase, if your opponent has a Digimon, you get to gain a memory, so that's always really good. Starting a turn with 2 is usually a very good way to start. Additionally, it has the when attacking effect to trigger the draw 1 and trash 1, but this is a once per turn effect, so it is locked on that situation. Finally, we look at the other Garurumon X. This one is the blue-purple from EX5. This one does so much work. There's a reason this is limited. When you can Digivolve on top of either Gabumon or Tsunomon for 0, then on playing when Digivolving, you reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. You get to add 2 cards with Garurumon or X Antibody in their names among them to the hand. Then you place the rest at the bottom of the deck. And then if you added a card, you get to trash 1 card in your hand. Additionally, at all turns once per turn, when this card with Garurumon or Omnimon in its name would be deleted in battle, by returning 2 non-Digi-Egg cards from your trash to the bottom of the deck, you prevent that deletion, having protection, having a really powerful search ability. This card does a lot. Like I said, there's a reason it's limited, but it could come back to more copies. It would very help out. But you're only running one so far for now in this specific version because of the time period, but it's still a very solid strategy. Moving into the Garurumons, these are very important because whether you're playing blue or purple, some cards will overlap, but more importantly, you have some trade outs for your different colors. Starting off with the blue variants, you're going to be running the promo Garurumon first. This is the P007 one. This one, when attacking, if you have a Digimon Garurumon instant, you get to trigger draw one. This is not a once per turn effect, so it is very good, but the point is you're running this one. Next to it, you can run copies of the BT5 Garurumon. This one, when Digi-evolving, if you have Gabumon in its evolution sources, you get to gain one memory, reducing the Evo. And additionally, during its all turns, while you have a Digimon that has Garurumon or Omnimon in its name, you get to gain 1000 DP, so very solid. Then we look at the BT15 Garurumon. This one is played in both versions, blue and purple, because of how powerful it is. It can Digivolve on top of any Gabumon in its name for the cost of 2. Additionally, if you have a Tamer with Matt Ishida in its name, you can just gain one, draw one card when you actually Digivolve into this. If you don't, you get to play a Matt Ishida with the play cost reduced by 3. So it is really interesting in that it doesn't play it for free, but it allows you to play one for a reduced cost. So if you're playing any of your 3 costs and lower mats, you're basically just playing them for free. But if you're playing 4 cost ones, you are going to have to pay a memory. Just keep that in mind. Additionally, it's inheritable as a when attacking once per turn, you get to draw one card, so still very solid to get your hand size up. Moving into the purple Garurumons, we have some trade-offs. One that I would recommend maybe possibly playing is the BT2 Garurumon, where this one, when one of your other Digimon is deleted, you gain a memory. It is during your turn effect, but this can be useful if for whatever reason you swing with one of your Digimon, it dies, and you have this in sources, you can gain a memory, so it can come up and play. But the main trade-off is that instead of running something like the P007 Garurumon, which is the promo, you have the ST6 Garurumon here. This one is a, when attacking, you trigger a draw one, trash one. It is not a hard once per turn, so you can use this multiple times. It is your exchange if you choose to play a more heavy purple base, because you just switch the promo one out for this one, because triggering draw one, trash one is still very good. Additionally, we have the ST16 Garurumon. This one is definitely played because it just does a lot of work for a beginning player. It has the ability to Digivolve on top of any Gabumon for a cost of 2, that's level 3. And then when it is checked in security, you may play one Gabumon or one Tamer card with Matt Ishida in its name from your hand or trash without paying the cost. So having a security effect built into your deck is good. When it Digivolves, it triggers draw one, trash one, so very solid. And it carries the draw one, trash one as a hard once per turn for its when attacking inheritable, so a very solid card. Moving into the 2 Garurumon X's, both of them serve different purposes, and you do play both in either deck, that color you want to focus on, because you do need some number of each. The Garurumon from BT9 offers protection that when you have a Digimon with Garurumon or Omnimon, if it would be deleted in battle, you trash 2 sources with the same level from the Digimon in order to prevent the deletion. And the Garurumon X, which is at 1, that from EX5, this one just does so much work, being dual color. And when Digi-evolving, you trigger a draw 2, trash 1. And then if you have Garurumon or X Antibody in the sources, you gain 1 memory. This card can literally just be a +1 that lets you filter 2 cards and trashing. It's just super solid. And it carries the same protection as Gabumon X from EX5. So those are very good. Moving into the level 5s, we have WereGarurumon. WereGarurumon is very good because you have basically all the power here to do the OTK. There's a reason the P08 WereGarurumon is at 1, because this card definitely can get you there quickly. What it does is that when attacking, if you have a Digimon that has Garurumon in its name, in its evolution sources, this Digimon unsuspends. So if you can tell, there is an OTK with this that I'll showcase later. But the point is, this card allows you to do a lot of damage really quickly, and it has protection, so that's what makes it a bit more dangerous than other cards. And obviously, it has a very good inheritable where while you have 8 or more cards in your hand, this Digimon gains security attack +1. So you can give your higher level stacks or your X Antibody forms the ability to have security attack +1. It is just very strong. Some cards that you can substitute are like the EX1 WereGarurumon, where you get to trigger the draw 1 from when you Digivolve, so it just allows you to filter up a bit. But then it has a really good thing. If you have 8 or more cards in your hand, you get to gain 1 memory during when attacking, so you can gain memory for having a lot of cards. Also, we have the WereGarurumon Ace from BT15. The main reason you'd want to play this is that if for whatever reason you feel like you're running down in time, or you need to get a bigger body set up quickly, you can hard play this for 4 and start building on top of it quickly. The main focus of what it does is that when effects add cards to the hand, it can stun one of your opponent's Digimon. So pretty much it's going to be doing that with its effect. You get to trigger a draw one. It's just pretty solid in terms of dealing with hitting your opponent as an ace Digimon, but it's still decent with its effects. Looking at the purple WereGarurumons, we will be playing one of them mandatorily because it has a special evolution condition. But more importantly, you can run something like the ST6 WereGarurumon, which just basically, while you have 5 or more cards in your trash, this Digimon gets 2000 DP during your turn. So it can do a lot of damage if you still choose to play this. But the main one we want to talk about is the ST16 WereGarurumon, which is a substitute stand-in for your promo WereGarurumon, where it can Digivolve on top of any Garurumon for a cost of 3, and then when attacking by trashing one card in your hand, it can unsuspend, so this card is able to attack twice effectively. But more importantly than that, its inheritable is when attacking by trashing one card in your hand, you get to delete one of your opponent's level 4 lower Digimon. This helps when you get into your higher level thresholds, so you can start doing more damage quickly. Looking at both WereGarurumon X's, there's a reason we only have access to WereGarurumon, the blue one, because when Digivolving, you get to unsuspend this Digimon. Then if WereGarurumon or X Antibody is in this Digimon's Digi-Evolution cards, you return one of your opponent's level 4 lower Digimon to its owner's hand. So this card is just very good. There's a reason it's at 1, because we do have the substitute form in the EX5 one, but I do think the EX5 one offers a lot of power, and you play multiple copies. It can Digivolve on top of any WereGarurumon for a cost of 1. It can, by trashing, when it's Digivolving, by trashing 2 cards in your hand, you can unsuspend this Digimon. Then if WereGarurumon or X Antibody is in this Digimon's Digi-Evolution cards, you may return one Digimon with Garurumon or X Antibody in its name from your trash to your hand. For its inheritable, when attacking, if this Digimon has Garurumon or Omnimon in its name, by trashing one card in your hand, you unsuspend this Digimon. So this card is absolutely insane, because if you decide to just go into swinging with any of your level 6s, you're now able to start doing these really powerful checks, and you can unsuspend by trashing a card. I mean, it's just a match made in heaven. Looking at the MetalGarurumons, you have a lot of different options. I just threw them here. I don't really need to talk about them too much, because this will be an optional thing for you. Personally, if I had to pick, depending on which ones I'd want to use, I'd really focus on what my base is. If I want to be more aggressive with a blue, maybe running, believe it or not, the original structure deck MetalGarurumon's a good option, because when attacking, it just simply unsuspends. So you can do 2 checks, but if you have a whole setup stack with maybe the promo WereGarurumon, you can do 4 checks with this card. So it is an option for sure. Additionally, you can run the EX1 MetalGarurumon. This one was played for a long time, because when it Digivolves, you're able to reduce its evolution cost because you gain 1 memory for every 4 cards in your hand. So usually, if your hand is pretty sizable, you could reduce its evolution cost for 2, even 3 cards. 3 memories sometimes. So Digivolving this for 1 was crazy, and it does have the ability to bottom deck one of your opponent's Digimon, or return it to the hand, with an on deletion effect. So it is kind of strange, but it can do that. But then you also have something that I would want to talk about in the form of the BT17 MetalGarurumon. The main reason we want to talk about this one is that this MetalGarurumon is played because you can Digivolve on top of any level 5 WereGarurumon. It is a substitute as well for another card you'll see, but its inheritable is actually very strong, because if this Digimon has Omnimon in its name, it will unsuspend when attacking. So this actually allows you to do multiple checks with Omnimons, and you'll see it later on. But this is also a substitute for the next one we'll focus on, that being the BT15 Secret Rare MetalGarurumon. This one can Warp Digivolve, but more importantly, it carries Evade as its main skill. When any Digimon becomes suspended, this Digimon unsuspends. So the main reason that this is important for this MetalGarurumon is that it is very important to play it towards like higher tier versions of the deck, but also it sees a lot more play right now in something like Omnimon, like Ace. So you do get to choose if you want to play this. It is a bit expensive, so for a beginning deck, I don't really want to have like one card kind of be like double the price of your entire strategy that you can pick up the core, but sometimes that's the case. But this card can be substituted out, so that's why I recommended some of the subs. Additionally, you have something like the ST16 MetalGarurumon Ace, which I think is a fantastic substitute for this MetalGarurumon, because what it does is that you can blast Digivolve, so it's always like kind of ready to go in your hand. But additionally, it has the ability to Digivolve on top of any Garurumon level 5 for a cost of 3. It can also, when Digivolving, you trash up to 3 cards in your hand and you get them any memory. So if you just Digivolve this straight, trashing 3 cards, you have a free Evo. Additionally, you have the ability to, when attacking, you may trash 1 card in your hand and you delete one of your opponent's Digimon with DP or with the lowest level. So basically, you're just able to kind of get rid of stuff. But the point is, this card is removal, it's powerful, and it's solid. Moving into MetalGarurumon X, this is where all the focus is here. And you'll see with my deck list that I even omit the MetalGarurumons for the most part, just because you want to make sure you get into these, because this is where the power comes from. With these for MetalGarurumon X from BT9, when Digivolving, you can unsuspend this Digimon. It gains blocker until the end of your opponent's turn. And then if obviously when this Digimon becomes unsuspended, if MetalGarurumon X Antibody is in the sources, you will be able to delete one of your opponents or all of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level. So yeah, pretty much you get to bounce them. Sorry. Reading the text sometimes when I have this thing set up is a little hard. Moving into the EX5 MetalGarurumon X Antibody. This one's different because it innately carries blocker, but the main thing is when Digivolving, if MetalGarurumon X Antibody is in its evolution sources, it gives all of your opponents Digimon when attacking, they lose 4 memory. So like Super Ice Wall pretty much. And then when attacking, you are able to effectively deal with the opponent's board by returning one Digimon card from your trash. You are able to delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the same level as that Digimon card. So pretty much if you return like a level 6, you'll get rid of level 6s. So it is important to always have some type of number of different cards in your trash. Moving into the Omnimons, this is where you will have your OTK set up here, mostly focusing on Blitz Omni because from BT5, this card lets you get it in, but you also need to play Omnimon X as well. The main reason why is that when you use both of these cards in conjunction, you're just able to pretty much deal with your opponent's security. Omnimon X allows you to, when Digivolving, you are going to be able to look at your opponent's security and trash one card. So when you declare an attack with like Blitz Omni, this is a normal OTK I've talked about before on the channel, but people know about this too, where you OTK by swinging with the Blitz Omni to do a final check. They have 1 extra security left. You Digivolve with X Antibody into the Omegamon X. Omegamon X's effect lets you trash the last security, and since the attack's already declared, you proceed to finish the attack. Since they have no security, you win the game. So that's how that works. Your other substitute, level 7, is one that I was holding in, as we have Gabumon Bond of Friendship Ace. This card is definitely a substitute that is worth running, because if you want to use any of the trashing Garurumon cards I did not talk about in this video, which are possible, you can run this card because the stacks get really high in this strategy, so that this card is almost always able to kind of get rid of opponents' Digimon by bottom decking them, because it'll always have a big stack, and it's able to unsuspend while you have a Tamer when attacking. So this card can do a lot of damage, and it's a good option. Now, moving into the Tamers, we actually have 3 memory setters to go through first. All the Matashitas are here. They all do different things. The blue Matashita really is somewhat strange because it focuses on when you play a blue Digimon to trash a source, but you may want to use this if you are going to play Gabumon Ace in the deck, because it does allow you to do that. Purple Mat is here because obviously this is one of the best Tamers I think ever created. Just lets you add back a purple option or a purple Digimon. So you get back any of your Garurumons that are purple. So solid. And then the ST16 Mat is here because it is a memory setter, but when one of your effects trashes a card in your hand, you trigger this by suspending this Tamer to gain a memory. So you're always going to be able to just gain extra memory from any of your trashing effects. So in a purple variant, you may want to substitute this for the blue Mat. Looking at finally the Mat, I think you play in every version, the BT15 Mat. This one on play reveals the top 3 cards of your deck and gets to add you 1 Gabumon or Garurumon in its name among them to your hand, and you return the rest to the bottom. And then during your turn, when one of your Digimon's effects adds cards to your hand, by suspending this Tamer, you gain 1 memory. So you always want to keep that in mind because this is played in both versions, because you will be doing that a lot by adding cards to your hand. So it's very good. Other options are something like Hammer Spark and Ice Wall. They're very solid. They have good effects, but that you have to play one of them each, so there are there. Additionally, you have cards like Blue Memory Boost, Mental Training, and Blue Scramble. All these cards are important. Blue Memory Boost especially, because a lot of times you really want to dig into pieces in this deck, so actually running Blue Memory Boost in this deck is very important. Now we'll get into the how to play, because we do have some combos here. Starting off, we have what happens with the blue base. So we have Sunamon here, and we'll be showing you what you can do if you choose to go for a blue base. So one of the main things with a blue base is that's very consistent, because you're just able to kind of just go for some pretty solid effects. This is the one that most people are familiar with because it's existed the longest. You'll go ahead and Digivolve into, for instance, something like the EX1 Gabu. And if you have Gabumon X in your hand, you have 2 choices here. You can always proceed to draw to get more cards if you want that immediately, or you always have the option to hard play Gabumon X. So you do want to be able to do that. So you have to think about those options. But yeah, pretty much you want to do that for a search. Additionally, for when we reset, we have something like if you have Gabumon X in your battle area, for instance, and you've already started to climb, the main thing you want to proceed to do is obviously get your searches on. You really want to get quickly into the BT15 Garurumon as quickly as possible. An X Antibody will always help because you need it for the OTK. You'll then proceed to go ahead and hopefully have Met by this time and go ahead and Digivolve into the Garurumon, for instance, play Mat out for free because it will be reduced. You want to be able to do that so you can get your search going to get more pieces online. And you start to see how the deck is functioning. You really just want to keep climbing quickly and then proceed to go ahead and Digivolve into Garurumon X. Personally, I'll always go for the one of one instead of the main one because you'll be able to set up cards in your trash quickly. And it is a one of, so if you have the chance to take it and you need to take it, always take the one ofs because you'll never get them back probably in the game. But this deck can surge a lot, so it's a possibility. But the main focus you always want to have is that option of getting into this so that you have the protection setup going. Now we'll switch over to what purple base does. Now, purple base is more important because you get to just draw more cards, but you also filter a lot. So the ceiling is a bit higher, but it's a little bit harder to achieve sometimes because you're just not searching as much. You have to kind of draw. So you have to focus on those abilities there. Like I said, the main thing is to just go ahead and Digivolve up. So you'll do something similar. Also, you can change it with some of the Digimon that can be able to Digivolve on top of any Sunomon. So it is important. It's also important talking about the differences between, say, Garurumon, the promo, and the ST6 one because they are basically interchangeable for your combos. And additionally, when you'll change out something like BT5's Garurumon, you want to change it out for the ST16 one. I do want to mention that here because this is kind of how the dichotomy of the cards work. Some do different roles for the different version of the deck, but they still fulfill similar purposes. Now we'll focus on WereGarurumon, the promo, and obviously the ST16 one because they are your main damage distributors because you want to focus on using them for your OTKs. Now, obviously, we'll have a stack kind of set up like this. You want to have your stack very much set up like we already had set up in the last kind of frame I showed you, where you have it set up with Garurumon X, because now you have protection, you have the ability to do a lot more damage, and the purple base, you're going to be drawing more cards. So say you perform the first swing with WereGarurumon, where Garurumon's effect will trigger to allow you to draw one and trash one from the different effects of the Garurumon line. You'll trigger these effects in order to restand it with its own effect by trashing one card, so it'll be restanded. So you've already done one check. You'll proceed to do the same thing again, filter for more cards. This is where the X variants come in, both in WereGarurumon X, the blue version, and the solid purple, blue-purple version, because both of them will be able to reactive, but it's important that you already have this so you can perform more checks. You'll then, for instance, Digivolve into the WereGarurumon X from EX5. This one will allow you to trash 2 cards to reactivate, so you'll be able to unsuspend. You've trashed 2, so now it's ready to do one more check. You'll proceed by performing the 3rd check, and then this is where your options come into where you have all these other pieces left. If you have all these other pieces left, you can still perform the OTK because you've already performed 3 checks. You'll proceed by having these pieces and going into having the X Antibody underneath and Digivolving into the WereGarurumon X or MetalGarurumon X. So this one can eventually trigger its unsuspend effect. It'll unsuspend. You'll be able to perform another swing. This is where you're going to obviously have this ability to do a check, and then you'll obviously proceed by triggering. No effects here. You just want the check to resolve, so you will hold it. Then you will proceed to Digivolve into Omnimon. It'll reactive, and you'll perform the final check. When you do the final check, this is where obviously you'll trigger X Antibody's effect to Digivolve into the Omnimon X. Omnimon X will rip your opponent's last security, and you'll have performed the OTK. So that is where that OTK persists. It's very consistent in this deck, actually, because you have a lot of filtering, so it is up to you, but it's still good. Looking at the decks that we actually have access to in terms of what we can do, well, we have some interesting ones. This is my first list, which is blue based. It is more focused on establishing quick combos and assembling the board as quickly as possible, ramping your pieces, getting into it as quickly as possible. We also have my second version, which is purple based. This one is very slightly the same. It's just a little different where we change some ratios and add different cards, so you have a little bit more variety, but that's just because you can play them because they are purple, and it just lets you use pretty much the same cards you want to use. Additionally, we have the the profile profits here, the actual amount of here for the budget minded. The first deck profile can be kind of made for about $15 if you can get all the cards together properly, and the second one's about $20 because some of the other cards do ramp up the price just a little bit, but not too much because they are somewhat generic. And then finally, if you want to put in, because I now have this, the additional cost, it'll cost you about 12 to 40 bucks if you want to put in all the additional pricing. That is maybe the Gabumons from BT15, or going all the way up to adding some copies of the MetalGarurumon from BT15. But guys, that is everything I've got for you today. Pretty much that's the starting point of what you can do as a beginner. There can be more for this deck and little. There's also a lot of videos to help you resource-wise if my video isn't enough. But also, this is a good beginning deck. I do think Garurumon's a great deck for a beginner, and that is where I'm going to leave it off today. I do hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, this has been Brad from the Ed Army signing off, and for all of you out there, to sign on.